John Maxwell, an American billionaire in his 50s, lived in a gilded cage. The Western press hailed him as the key holder to the future, with his empire in technology and clean energy. But few knew that the future he held had no room for peace. Back home, every step he took was accompanied by a mobile fortress of dozens of bodyguards, in black suits, earpieces in their ears, and eyes as cold as a razor's edge, scanning every person, every street corner. His life was an endless series of vigilance. Even in his sleep, he dared not fully relax. However, just one chance business trip to Pakistan, a country he had imagined through a distorted lens of chaos, danger, and instability, changed everything. From a plate of dal chawal in a small dhaba on the outskirts of the city, to a lost wallet returned untouched, to the sincere smile of a student, the billionaire's heart began to beat to a rhythm he thought long forgotten. In the end, he was compelled to exclaim, "Pakistan is the safest and happiest country in the world." This story will take us along with him on his journey from constant anxiety to the serenity he found in this land. The private jet landed at Allama Iqbal International Airport on a sunny morning. John Maxwell sat upright, staring out the window, his mind still filled with stereotypes of a chaotic and disorderly country. But as soon as he descended the stairs, the very first scene made him pause. The airport was spacious. The flow of people was dense but orderly, everyone neatly queuing for immigration. There was no pushing or shoving. The border control officers in their uniforms were serious, yet polite. A luxury car with the delegation drove out of the airport and along a wide, tree-lined canal road. On both sides, modern housing societies and commercial buildings were interspersed with lush green spaces that seemed to stretch on forever. He couldn't help but wonder if he had been mistaken. As the car entered the city center, an endless stream of traffic appeared before him, bustling yet adhering to some strange, unspoken rhythm. Suddenly, a minor accident happened right before their eyes. Two cars had a slight collision. John's heart tightened, his instincts telling him that an argument, or even a fight, was about to break out, as it often would back home. One of his bodyguards had already opened the door, ready to intervene. But what happened next left the entire delegation stunned. Two men got out of their cars, brushing themselves off. They looked at each other and laughed. One patted the other on the shoulder and said a few short words. Passers-by stopped to help. A young man helped inspect a bumper. An elderly woman picked up a package that had fallen from a seat. Not a single shout, not a single curse. A few minutes later, they shook hands and merged back into the flow of traffic. John sat motionless, an indescribable feeling rising in his soul. He muttered, "Back home, this would have definitely involved the police and lawyers. But here, a simple handshake." The car stopped at a luxurious 5-star hotel. When he got out, his bodyguards immediately spread out, forming a protective ring. The curious gazes of passers-by on the street were drawn to him. For the first time, John felt that their presence did not bring security, but created a sense of alienation and isolation. That night, lying on the soft bed, he couldn't sleep. The image of the handshake after the accident and the friendly glances on the street replayed in his mind. A big question was gradually forming in his consciousness. Could he have been so wrong about this country? The next morning, John had a meeting with Ahmed Khan, the young CEO of a company called Techlogics Pakistan. The headquarters building was modern, on par with major corporations in New York. In the meeting room, Mr. Khan was only accompanied by his assistant and a secretary. Not a single bodyguard, John asked in surprise. "Mr. Khan, don't you need security here?" "Mr. Khan smiled calmly. "In Pakistan, we believe in the security that our community provides. People are friendly, and we rarely need bodyguards, except perhaps for our cricket stars to hide from their fans." This answer left John speechless. The meeting was professional, and the artificial intelligence and clean energy projects presented by Techlogics impressed him with their vision for a Pakistani company. However, his internal wariness had not completely disappeared. That evening, as he waited for the elevator, a little girl, tugging at her mother's camise, naively asked, "Amma, Why are so many men following that uncle everywhere? Is he a famous cricketer? John heard every word clearly. His face flushed, not with anger, but with shame. For all these years, he had been proud of his bodyguards as a symbol of power, but in the eyes of a Pakistani child, he just looked like an entertainer trying to draw attention. Those words, like a small knife, pierced the thick armor he had built for so long. That night, at Mr. Khan's invitation, John decided to go for a walk. Racecourse Park was shimmering with lights, and the walking tracks were crowded with people. He sat on a bench and ordered a glass of lassi. The tangy, sweet, and creamy taste was completely different from the coffee he usually drank. He saw elderly men playing carom, groups of university students laughing cheerfully without any parental supervision. A strange sense of peace, one he hadn't felt in a very long time, began to seep into his soul. The next morning, Mr. Khan invited John for breakfast at a famous halwa puri place in a narrow lane of the old city. Steam billowed from the kitchen, and people sat close together at simple tables, eating and chatting animatedly. For the first time in his life, the billionaire entered such a humble establishment. A plate of puri with chana and halwa was brought to him, exuding a delightful aroma. He took the first bite of the puri, and the soft, rich flavor spread through his body, evoking a strange feeling of simplicity and closeness. As they were eating, a frightened scream rang out. A young man was trying to snatch a handbag from a woman leaving the eatery. John immediately tensed up, but in the blink of an eye, everyone in the place stood up as one. A man from a nearby table rushed forward and tackled the thief. Another young man blocked his path, and the shopkeeper shouted loudly, calling for the police. Within minutes, 2 policemen appeared and quickly apprehended the culprit. It all happened swiftly and efficiently. People returned to their tables and continued their breakfast as if nothing had happened. Mr. Khan said calmly, "You see, this is how it is here. People will always help." John was frozen. The last remnants of his prejudice had completely crumbled. That day, on the way back to the hotel, he decided to try walking alone, without his bodyguards. He wanted to blend into the crowd, to experience this tranquility for himself. But after just a few turns, he realized he was lost. Standing at a bustling intersection, he looked around in confusion. At that moment, a young man on an old motorcycle pulled up beside him. "Do you need help?" he asked in broken English. He introduced himself as Ali, a university student. Upon learning that John was lost, Ali gestured for him to sit on the back seat. The old motorcycle chugged through the narrow streets of old Lahore, the wind whipping through his hair, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine and fresh naan. The feeling took John back to a carefree childhood. When they reached the hotel, John took out his wallet to thank him, but Ali waved his hands and, with a wide smile, said, "No need. Welcome to Pakistan." John stood there with his wallet open in his hand. The selfless help, the pure kindness, warmed his hardened heart. That night, for the first time in many years, John Maxwell slept soundly, without nightmares and without bodyguards outside his door. The next day, while buying souvenirs, John accidentally left his wallet on the counter of a small tea shop. He only discovered it was missing when he got back to his hotel. His face turned pale, his heart pounded. The worst thoughts flooded his mind. "This is it," he muttered. "The truth finally comes out. Pakistan is just like everywhere else." The fragile trust that had just begun to form in him seemed to be extinguished. However, a little over an hour later, the hotel manager informed him that someone from the local police station was there to see him. On the table lay his familiar wallet. A young policeman smiled. "The tea shop owner reported that you forgot this. Please check if everything is in order." With trembling hands, John opened his wallet. The cash, credit cards, documents, everything was there, down to the last rupee. He looked up at the policeman, his eyes glistening, and whispered, "My God, I was so wrong." The feeling of astonishment, emotion, and relief was so strong he felt like crying. He clutched the wallet tightly, understanding that real security wasn't about bodyguards in black suits, but about the honesty and kindness of ordinary people. At that moment, He called his security detail and said calmly, "From today, only a couple of you will accompany me. The rest can take a break." That evening, people saw the American billionaire sitting at a roadside cafe next to elderly men deeply engrossed in a game of carom. He was sipping dud patti and feeling a sense of peace he had never known before. At the final meeting, instead of just signing a small contract, John Maxwell made a decision that caused a shock. "I don't want to stop at this. I want to build a research center for artificial intelligence and clean energy in Pakistan. I came here looking for business opportunities, but I found something far more valuable. A place where people live with security and happiness. I want to be a part of this." On the day of his departure from Pakistan, as the plane gained altitude, John looked down at the city, receding below, and whispered, "This isn't just a place where I do business. It's a place that taught me how to live." Upon returning to New York, the familiar tension immediately washed over him. Police sirens, news of robberies, and the team of bodyguards once again surrounded him. Over dinner, he told his wife and children about his trip, about the people and stories that had completely changed his worldview. One afternoon, he took his wife Elizabeth's hand and said, "I've spent my entire life in a state of anxiety. But in Pakistan, I felt truly alive. I want us to live there, in our old age." John Maxwell had lived nearly half his life in constant vigilance, believing that money and high walls would provide security. But it was in Pakistan, a place from which he expected nothing, that he found true peace. He realized that the greatest wealth is not in a bank account, but in a society that knows how to care, where every person feels safe and valued. And perhaps, anyone who hears this story will agree that Pakistan is not just a country, but a home where humanity and tranquility reside.